Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minions with me this evening are Donkey.
Hello.
And Adam.
Hello.
We might be joined by an Inquisitor and also a wandering exhibit or a visiting exhibit, really, of the GabbyGeeWhiz variety.
Oh, sweet Lord Almighty.
A lovely batch of guests.
Yep. And of course, as it is once again a Friday, I am the keeper for this evening, Sanguine. How are both of you doing tonight?
Good.
Well,
You're still confused as to what spin the cat means?
well,
One, it skinned the cat, and two, it means fuck the Bengals.
I get that, but at the same time, we both heard spin the cat rather than skin the cat, which just left both of us going, the fuck are you talking about, Donkey?
Fair enough. Guess I need to be more enunciative.
That...
I know it's not a proper word, but that works.
You're just making me depressed.
Well,
what?
Because
and this time it's not just
nobody should be spinning cats or skinning cats, but
the horrendous Geneva Convention violations that you're currently committing upon the English language. But so how are you doing, Adam? Since I did start asking that, but then I went off on just making fun of Donkey for a bit as per usual. You doing well? Day go fairly?
Yes. The day went fair. Yes. No, yeah. We're pretty much at work. We're caught up to a point where we can relax for a bit. So today
that's good to hear.
Yeah, we were kicking it up. We had me and a couple of the dudes went to this place called Cane's. I think I brought it up before, but
Raising Cane's, the chicken place.
It's a weird chicken.
Yeah, it's Raising Cane's. It's something that not everyone has. Raising Cane's. I think it's effectively a Midwestern chicken place.
No, I thought somebody said it came from like Vegas or something like that.
Oh,
like
it has other locations, and I think it might have been Nevada, but I'm saying that the preponderance of its locations, I think, are in the Midwest.
All I know is that we went there for lunch, and it was packed. Everybody wants some of that chicken.
Yep. It's pretty good chicken. And good evening, Assassin. Good evening, Functional. And good evening, Green Badger Outdoors. Yeah, the chicken there, I haven't actually had Raising Cane's as of yet, but I've heard good things about it. Normally, I don't go out to eat. I just make my own delicious food, and I go with that.
Not everyone has Asperger's passion for the preparation of cuisine.
Oh, it's dead easy, a good chunk of it. It's just some things are a bit more intensive, like tonight I'm making omu rice.
Speaking from a person who loves pastry cooking, I am well aware that the fundamentals are simple. However, a few of them are a little bit particular, I would use the word.
Especially when you're coming with pastry. But yeah, when you're talking, a lot of the food that I make is dead easy, like marinate chicken thighs, cook chicken thighs, make butter rice, serve with liberal amounts of alcohol. Enjoy. That's a really easy meal to make. that taste absolutely fucking delicious. But when it comes down to it, the marinade is normally a decent blend of spices. For chicken, mayo is a fantastic thing to use in your marinade because it adds a little bit of a boost to the Maillards when it comes to the browning. Because it's egg and oil. And what you need in order to get Maillards is salt, fat, protein. So, egg, protein. Oil, fat. Add some salt, boom. Shit browns like an absolute beauty.
And with so many spices being salt-based, there you go.
Yep. And it allows the flavor to really adhere to the chicken in a beautiful way. So, like I said, mayo-based marinades for chicken, dead easy. Always taste amazing. So,
Amen to that.
do a simple marinade like that. And if you're trying to do an Asian marinade for chicken, mayo, especially Kewpie mayo, some ginger, some garlic, a splash of soy sauce. Quickly mix that together, toss your chicken in. It's going to be fucking delicious. You want it spicy? Toss in a hot sriracha. Bump up the spice on that, and you can get srirachas that are standard, where it's just a nice complex flavor, not really spicy, all the way up to I have my triple smoked sriracha, which is a TM Scorpion, then Ghost Pepper and Carolina Reaper, all mixed together in that sriracha, which makes it rather fucking spicy. And then
that's not a sriracha for a neophyte.
And then I have my... Oh, actually, that is not my triple smoke. It's not triple smoked also, there's peppers. Let me quickly double check, because I just checked my other sriracha, because I have a really hot one, and then I have a hot one. Oh, sorry. My triple smoked is the Cherry Scotch Bonnet and Carolina Reaper. The one that I mentioned with those three, the Carolina, TM, Scorpion, and Ghost Pepper, is my extra hot. So you can get everything from a few thousand to maybe a couple 100,000 Scoville units. All the way up to millions. And oh good God, the flavor that gives. So, dead easy. Making rice. Rinse your rice. Soak your rice. Cook your rice. Add some butter. Add a splash of soy sauce. Tastes fucking delicious. Cook up your chicken. Slice it. Serve it on top. Add some kimchi onto the side. Pour out some sake. Pour out some beer. Pour out some whiskey.
What just happened?
I mean, you don't have to pour it out. You could put it in the dish, right?
Not in the dish, but in a proper alcohol vessel, yes.
I mean, you don't want to waste it.
You can do a shoe of sake. You can do a pint glass of beer. And you can do a snifter or Glencairn of whiskey.
I'm okay, game.
What's happening?
I just got one touchdown, and not 5 seconds later, I get another. I don't know what happened.
Ha! Get good. Get good or get fucked. But yeah.
I guess the cat threw an interception.
Oh yeah, you're playing
Against.
game.
Yeah.
Yep. So, any news story? Oh, and just to give how I'm doing, because I think that was where we left off. I'm doing
After
fine.
you spurred about food.
Yes, I'm doing fairly well. As I stated already in my short spurging, making some omu rice tonight. So I just finished the Japanese fried rice portion. Letting my pan heat back up, and I'll be frying up, or not frying up, but cooking up the omelet for the omu of the omu rice. And then layering down some cheese and wrapping the rice that I currently have in it. Doing a little bit of ketchup art, pouring out my drinks, and chowing down on that tonight, which should be fucking amazing. But yeah, other than that, doing rather well. So, any stories that caught your guys' attention or anything that you've been doing that you want to share with the stream? I do have a slight reason for the name I chose, but I'll get to that later on.
Happiest news of the week for me? The Goblin is gone. Beetlejuice is gone.
Yep, that she is. Which, Adam, you were probably fairly chuffed about.
I mean, I don't know how much of a change we'll see, but it is nice to. It's nice
Chicago.
to see that. Yeah, there is some visual,
I will tell you one
application.
thing that will probably improve. Whoever replaces that witch will not be able to use Black Lesbian Woman for all of her failures. His or her failures.
Well, that's assuming that they aren't transracial and
Oh,
transgender.
God.
Well, I mean, she did it on the way out, so.
But yeah, it's Chicago. I'd be surprised if things appreciably improve, considering that her main opposition were equally or more insane than she was.
Unfortunately.
Considering her opposition, it was her, then another Democrat who had about the same stances as she did. Another Democrat that wanted for even more lax treatment of offenders. And I think there was a quaternary Democrat as well that was looking for a cycling up of redistributive efforts. And
Cycling up of redistributive efforts. That sounds like communism with extra steps.
Oh yeah, that's effectively what it is. But if I remember correctly, those were the 4 main contenders, her, and then those 3. So,
and then there were 2 other also rans. No, and 1 other also ran because there were 6 total.
Well, it was 2 other also rans because I named her and then 3 other Democrats.
Okay, I was correct the first time.
So it'll be interesting to see how things go, but like I said, Chicago, not overly optimistic.
There's also the fact that technically we don't even know who will the mayor be because runoff.
Yep.
Yeah, it's still the runoff stuff, so.
But yeah, there was that news that just came out. Then there's, of course, the Biden White House executive order that is moving to enshrine EEO fucking everywhere.
EEO?
Employment Equity Office. So
did it?
Didn't Trump
or hasn't the court already told the White House multiple times, no, you can't change the scope of workers' bullshit through executive order? Multiple times?
Are you thinking that they give a shit?
Fair enough, it is Democrats. They do have a case of not caring about the courts.
And yeah, they're adding racial commissars, Green Badger. They're declaring that every section of the government will have its own racial commissars.
And it's one of their stated policies to ensure racial hiring quotas. A explicit, by the word, this case, violation of the 14th Amendment.
Oh, the other thing that they're going to be pushing is for ensuring that there's a mind towards racial equity in the practices of the government bodies.
Violating the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, which the way that kind of sounds, especially when you think of the IRS is being mandated to have this. White people have taxes now. Because, yeah, there's actually been a direction to white people and Asians have taxes now. Because there has been a very thinly veiled, implicit increase the number of audits on whites and Asians, decrease the audits on Black and Hispanic.
Unfortunately, there's not a large enough sample size, at least by the courts, to actually state that this is explicit discrimination.
Well, it's just been put in place. It's already getting challenged, though.
Oh, they actually wrote down that the IRS should do that?
Well,
morons.
There's, like I said, a very thinly veiled, implicit bit with that, where they didn't say outright to do it, but when they said the bit about with an eye towards racial equity, in one of the things that they did enumerate, it was such as with audits. So they didn't overtly say it, but they said it. Is kind of where that was left. So it is being challenged. There's already a group that's trying to put that forward, especially since there's been evidence of this before.
How many more L's is this government going to take?
As many as they fucking can.
Because on top of everything, the Democrat most likely to win 2024, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, is Gavin Newsom. A month ago, I would have said Buttigieg, but Ohio beats Ohio.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that has gone on there. But then there's other news. There's good bits of news. There's bad bits of news. And then there's random other stories. Do you guys have any major ones that you want to talk about? Or shall I dip my toe into why I picked the name?
What kind of bits of news are we talking about?
Oh, I'm asking if you guys have any sort that you want to talk about.
Oh.
And silence from Donkey, who muted himself.
Oh, wow.
As Adam is deep in thought.
Well, because I'm sitting here like, there's plenty of stuff that I have on mind to talk about, but I mean,
toss out any of them.
Is it the right platform? No, of course not. Can't just toss out any. You're absurd.
Yeah, you
Gotta be
can.
measured. Gotta be measured with your topics, sir. Um, what do you think about the metal plant explosion in Ohio?
I heard a little bit about that. Do you want to give the full rundown? Because I heard that there was another supply side explosion in Ohio recently.
Yeah, I think it was a day or two ago out in Ohio. There was at a like a metal stamping factory,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it just caught on fire and it started exploding. And it's not only that, but it's the toxic fumes that come out of it. So, wherever the wind's
Depending on the
blowing,
type of metal. Yeah.
yeah. Um, we could talk about the blizzard in California, how they're getting pummeled
Arizona's
with.
being hit just as hard.
You know what? I'm sorry, Arizona, but
Oh wait, my mistake,
shame.
Nevada.
Oh, Nevada.
Arizona's.
Both of you, shame. You deserve a blizzard. You desert. No. No, they don't deserve it. I'm just goofing.
I
But-
know why you said that though, because
No,
us up here.
it's crazy that these states are seeing such a crazy fucking weather pattern. There's even been some people showing video of I think it was in California, uh thunderstorms and lightning in snow in like a blizzard type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen it before, I'm pretty sure that it's happened. I'm pretty sure
No
it's happened.
lightning? Yeah, it happens.
But for California, for the areas that they're getting it.
So, just to give a bit more of a rundown on the Warren, Ohio steel plant explosion and fire.
Yeah.
This is from WFMJ, which is a local affiliate of NBC, apparently. Warren, Ohio, investigators are probing the cause of Monday morning's explosion and fire that ripped through a portion of the RG steel plant in Warren. Fire officials say they know what happened, but are trying to determine why it happened. The explosion shocked residents from their sleep just before 2 a.m. And the first fire trucks were on scene within minutes. And the next call was for extra help. Eventually, firefighters and equipment from 8 different Trumbull County departments were on scene. Warren Township Fire Chief Ken Schick says the explosion was at the blast furnace. Then this is a direct quote. What happened was there was an explosion at the number 4 stove. When it exploded, it blew everything out of the top of the stove, and it landed the hot steel and hot debris on the machine shop. The chief says most of the fire was in the machine shop, and they had little chance to save it. When we got on scene, probably 75% of the machine shop was totally engulfed in fire, Schick said. 2 construction trailers at the scene also caught fire and were destroyed. After about 3 hours, the fire was contained and under control around 5 a.m. Chief Schick says there were no injuries to any firefighters or plant employees. There's been no official statement about the incident released by RG Steel. The fire chief says he believes the damages will be in the millions of dollars. The chief says that he was told the blast furnace was shut down, but the plant was expected to resume operations by late Monday evening. So it sounds like there was something that caused an explosion in the number 4 furnace, which there's a bunch of things that could potentially cause explosion in a blast
Yeah.
furnace.
Actually, I was playing during my lunch break. I was playing on the Switch, GoldenEye, and I had to toss a little remote mine on these furnaces, and then the bad thing is I detonated them while I was still in the room, so I didn't. It wasn't that funny, but, but
Normally
yeah,
a bad idea to overpressure the room that you're actively in.
yeah, I didn't. Needless to say, I didn't finish
No,
the mission.
no, 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 no.
He's yelling at his game as he gets
Oh, is he,
stomped. He's
are
playing
you?
a Madden game.
Sacked for
Oh,
18 yards. That's what I'm knowing about.
right on. Yeah, I did see you say something about that in the Discord. So
Yes, yes, yes.
But yeah, there's also another steel mill fire apparently that happened just yesterday. When I went to look up the one that you mentioned, I saw not only the Ohio one, but apparently there's a Louisville, Kentucky one.
oh,
And the my keyboard. Sorry about that. But the Kentucky one, a steel plant in Louisville's Riverport industrial area, will be closed after a fire Thursday morning. The crews were called at about 6:30 a.m. to the Nucor, not sure how it's pronounced, Tubular Products Warehouse on Logistics Drive, but off Cane Cane Run Road near Pleasure Ridge Park. Because, of course, I need the exact GPS coordinates. Thank you very much, news story. PRP, Fire Protection District Chief Mason Myman? I'm guessing Myman, because when I and E go walking, the second does the talking. Said when crews arrived, they found a fire in the ductwork and bag area in the building, which holds fumes created from production. Fire crews will stay on scene to monitor the site for much of Thursday. The health department will also remain at the plant. A WDRB crew on the scene said there was no visible fire, but employees were standing outside. A hazardous materials team was also on site, along with ventilation trucks. Investigators have not determined the cause of the fire. A Nucor spokesperson said there were no injuries. It's currently unknown when the plant will reopen. The Nucor Tubular Products website said the company manufactures advanced conduits, which are steel pipes used in a variety of applications. So this one was also another steel plant. Just caught fire yesterday. Now, remember, there's a ridiculous number of steel plants, so 2 catching fire does not necessarily mean that there's anything strange going on.
well, and I just because I don't have my tinfoil hat on at the moment, I won't say that these are also typical things of wartime structure, destruction. You kind of go after the rails and food production and steel production, metal production, but I'm not saying that anything's going. And nor do I want minions to be caught up in any sort of goofy instances of conspiracy theories. So we don't want to get tagged again and again.
Yep.
I don't want to be the one. But yeah,
But it is rather interesting that you type in steel mill fire to find one story that just happened this week, and you find another story that just happened this week.
I will
just a
actually
coincidence.
disagree that at least other nations, geopolitical enemies of the United States are doing all this. Free
What's going
actors,
on?
minor terrorist groups, yada, yada, yada.
Do you hear the one
Sure.
that happened in Greece?
Oh,
Or-
I was also going to bring up that there was another steel mill plant fire that happened last month. Sorry, 2 months ago, because it happened just at the end of January. This one was in Texas.
Ooh.
But like I said, there's a shit ton of, or at least there were a shit ton of steel mills. The number of steel mills has fallen off rather sharply. But there are still a fair number floating around. Let me see how many steel mills there are in the US right now.
If I were to guess major ones, 100 total, possibly over 300. And that includes ones that are not operating but are still in position to work up at a moment's notice.
There are 278 currently in operation.
Oh, wow.
There's a bunch of them that could be cycled back up, but yeah, apparently, at least according to what I'm seeing, there's about 278, which is down 1.6% from 2022. This is one of the things that always drives me crazy. If there anything like steel production or the like, we should be trying to keep a shit ton of that in the nation. Also, since there were a bunch of issues that are causing steel mills throughout Europe to close. You guys heard about that, right?
Yep.
Especially a shit ton of German steel mills are starting to close down. Which I really wish that what we would do is, oh, German steel mills are closing down? Hey, German steel mill workers. We're about to open up a steel mill.
Easy visas, come and get them.
Yeah, we're opening up a new steel mill. How many workers were just laid off at your steel mill? What a coincidence. We have a steel mill that's opening up with that many plus 50.
Not to mention, on top of the easy visa, run it through the DoD so they basically get the same benefits they'd get in Germany.
Yep. Yeah, I would have it set up so that...
And I wouldn't even be surprised if the DoD actually runs several steel mills directly.
I would have it set up every time so that, hey, this major section of industry is going tits up in this area, but it's a section of industry that we vitally need. Hey, what a coincidence. Kind of like how you guys heard about what Florida man was doing not terribly long ago, right?
Which Florida man?
Yeah, the one who got his hand bitten off by the alligator.
No, I'm referring to the Florida man, DeSantis.
Oh, DeSantis with Disney?
Not with Disney. The thing that I was going to bring up was his tour of different areas where he went and talked to police. Did you guys hear about that?
No, where did he go?
So he went to a bunch of different cities. I think he went to Chicago and New York as two of them. And he talked to police officers. Care to guess what his message to police officers was?
Coaching them to a state that would actually respect police officers.
Hold on. Why is he going on a tour to different?
Well, because Florida is currently trying to increase its police staffing. So he went to areas where he knew that police were kind of being treated like shit. And he went, hey, if you're looking for a job, we'll even pay for relocation.
Wow, that's fucked. I mean,
It
not
is.
not to say that, like, hey, if there is, police officers that are like, hey, I'm willing to do it, go for it. But that is pretty scummy to actually do a little tour and hey, come
see,
to our place.
I don't
Like,
think that
holy
it's
shit.
scummy. I think
it's scummy.
I think that it's smart. If you know that police are being let off in record numbers in areas, and you're trying to find police officers, go to the
where
place.
police officers are available.
Yeah, go where police officers are available, and go, hey, a lot of you are getting let off. You can come work for us.
Like a carnival barker. Yeah, 100%.
And
I agree. He could be at his own state and fucking be doing his shit.
I know. I'm saying
but going state to state and being like, hey, police officers that were, that you're disillusioned from your own precinct. Yeah, come over to Florida. Yeah, that's carnival barker to me. But that's
I have a different
personal opinion. I gotta give me a second. I gotta go take a look at something real quick.
Yep.
And there's a whole other side to that police tour, actually.
Yep.
It also shows several parts of the country his view on crime. If he's recruiting nationally for the police force, it shows he'll be a tough on crime candidate down the road.
Yep. And like I said, I'm perfectly fine with that approach because to my mind, we need police officers. We need experienced police officers, especially. If other areas want to say fuck off police officers, shit, come to us. We'll still have to vet you. We'll still have to do everything like that because we want to make sure that we're getting the best. But
nothing worse than a scumbag police officer.
Yep, it's the same thing. It's the same logic behind German steel plant workers are being let off. Hey, German steel plant workers. Want to come to the US and work in a steel plant? I have absolutely no problem with poaching. When it comes to poaching talent, I want places to constantly be trying to poach talent. I want places to constantly be trying to attract talent. Because when you're trying to poach, when you're trying to attract, when you're trying to draw, however you want to phrase it, it means that people actually get the better end of the deal.
Generally.
At least your people will end up getting the better end of the deal, and anyone that accepts your offer will get the better end of the deal. Or people that don't accept your offer, when other areas have to respond to you trying to poach the best, they'll end up having to match your offer, which means that suddenly people that don't take up your offer even benefit, which is one of the things that goes to something that I've mentioned before on stream. But Donkey, do you happen to know the individual most credited with the creation of the American middle class?
This is a cabinet minister, not a president, so no.
Not a president, not a cabinet minister.
Really?
There's one person. There's one person credited with the creation of the middle class more than anyone else in the preponderance of the literature. And it was an industrialist. That's the one hint that I'll give. Sounds like you're stymied, are you? Or Do you want a little bit extra time to think?
My one guess, maybe Ford.
Got it on the first guess. Ford is credited with the creation of the American middle class, because what Ford did was Ford wanted the best workers for his plants. And he wanted everyone that worked at his plant to be able to buy a car that came off the assembly line at his plant. Because the way that he viewed it is, if I pay my workers enough, well, that money, at least some of it, will probably come back to me. Also, I'll be able to get the best people if I pay more than every other manufacturer in the area. So he started to increase the pay for his workers. So what happened? Well, naturally, anyone that was qualified to be a Ford plant worker started looking at going to become a Ford plant worker. So what did other businesses have to do in order to keep the talent that they had cultivated, that they so desperately wanted?
Well, at the time, weren't many of the other car shops more craftsman rather than assembly line?
Well, the thing is that
Or are we talking much later?
he was taking anyone that would be qualified. So if doesn't matter if you weren't working at an assembly line factory.
Steel workers, millsmen.
Yep. If you know how to work with metal, they're hiring. If you know how to deal with woodwork, they're hiring. If you know how to deal with this element, they're hiring. That element, they're hiring. If you're an engineer for engines, they're hiring. So anyone that was dealing with any of the trades, even obliquely related to any of the jobs that were at the Ford plant, they wanted to keep their talent. They wanted better workers, so they had to bump the wages and try to attract people. So what happened was Ford got into an arms race with every other business. He'd bump his wages, they'd bump their wages. He'd bump his, they'd bump theirs. He'd bump his, they would add some additional benefit in order to match. He'd add an additional benefit, they would add something else or bump the wages. And it became this competition for talent. And this competition for talent created the middle class as we know it. Because it meant that people were able to go where they would get the best value.
It was an employee's marketplace for the jobs.
Exactly. It was an employee's marketplace, and that employee's marketplace benefited everyone. And when I say that it benefited everyone, I mean it fucking benefited everyone. Because the government was happy with this happening.
They got a shit ton more taxes.
Yep. You have people competing for employees, so they keep on bumping the wages that they offer. Well, now you have more people that are paying more in taxes. Even if they don't go into the next bracket, because it's a percentage base, they're paying more in taxes. And not only are they paying more in taxes from just an income tax, but when people have more money in their pocket, they go and buy more shit. Which, when they go and buy more shit, now you get sales tax.
Noises.
And not only do you get the sales tax, but then after, or before you get the sales tax, businesses have to cycle up their production. So in order to cycle up their production, they need more staffing. When they get more staffing, suddenly you have payroll tax increasing. You have more people getting paid, so you have more taxes from income tax. It's this massive knockdown effect of when people are competing for talent, everyone fucking wins.
Mm-hmm.
Because the employees win from better wages. The businesses, to a large extent, also win because they get a better talent pool. And this was also something that a lot of the people that were dubbed robber barons, which is a term that I fucking hate because it's applied incorrectly to a large number of people, there were robber barons. Most of the people that are denoted as robber barons, though, do you know how they made their fortunes?
I'm not quite familiar with the term, but if it's anything similar to carpetbagger.
So, a robber baron was the pejorative term that's assigned to the late 1800s, or mid to late 1800s, early 1900s wealthy. The industrialists that ended up becoming filthy, stinking rich. The J.P. Morgans, the Chases, the Carnegies.
So we're talking carpetbaggers here.
Rockefellers. It's slightly different. So the idea behind them being robber barons is, well, they got rich because they just stole from everyone. No, the fuck they didn't. The vast majority of the people that are denoted as robber barons, they got their start by outcompeting a government-enforced monopoly. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but there was one of them that became one of the major ferry operators in New York. And it was because New York had named one company as their ferry operators. And they tried to say, anyone else operating a ferry in New York, fuck you. And this person went, you know what? Fuck that monopoly you just made. And fuck you for telling me that I can fuck off. I'll sell tickets for cheaper. I'll make my ferries faster. I'll do everything better than the company that you named as the monopoly holder. And you know what? People will pay me. People will come to me to ride my fucking ferries in New York. They will completely abandon the company that you determined will be the winner, that hasn't done a goddamn thing to improve their service ever since you named them the sole provider in this area. And not only will I be able to do that, but I'll be able to do that to such a degree that, yeah, you're going to try to come after me. You're going to try to fuck me over a barrel anytime that you're able to catch one of my ferries. But I will pay the cost and I will still win. Fuck your monopoly. And he did. He became,
and of course, several of them were at a rather advantageous time because we were leading into the turn of the century around that time.
Yep, and this is something that I've also talked about when it comes to the woeful creation of the Fed as we know it. Because the Fed, it was actually inspired by a bunch of the people that we call robber barons. Since it became obvious to especially J.P. Morgan that there was going to be a massive recession. And everyone that has looked into this has effectively said, yeah, the U.S. was going to have a depression well before the Great Depression that would have made it so that the Great Depression wouldn't have been called the Great. That's how fucked the economy was. But J.P. Morgan realized this was going to happen because, as you probably know, J.P. Morgan, that's a massive investing and banking company, isn't it?
Quite highly invested into the economy.
It was also a massive railroad company. So J.P. Morgan had his finger on the pulse of the economy. And he knew a bunch of other industrialists that had their pulse on the economy. So what he decided to do was he went to all of the people that he knew that were the most clever in their industries And we're already doing fucking fantastic. So we went to the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, the Fords, got them all in one room, and said, all of us, especially myself, are going to throw our money where our money will do the best. We each know our industry. We each know what business will fail, what business will succeed. We know what businesses will fail only because their management is absolutely awful. We know what businesses could succeed to an astounding degree if only they had a bit more to spend. And we will make sure that the businesses that are going to fail because they have horrendous management are bought out by businesses that are going to succeed because they have fantastic management. And we will ensure that the companies that have fantastic management have the capital available. And yes, we will benefit from this because we'll be investing. And when those companies start doing absolutely ridiculous profits, we will be paid out our investments. And we will also buy up companies if we can't find another company that would be a more fitting oversight for a failing company. We will buy it and we will run it successfully. And sure as shit, what they did was JP Morgan kind of encouraged quite strongly, shall we say, that all of them participate in this effort. So they started investing heavily in companies that they believed were going to succeed because of the quality of the management. They encouraged those companies to buy up specific companies that were going to go under. If a company was going to go under because it just didn't have anyone really buying their shit anymore because it was the death of that industry, they would look at what industries those bits of machinery and those workers could most easily be transferred to. And they ensured that the machinery and the workers were transferred to that industry.
God damn it.
So what they did was, by knowing the markets, knowing the businesses, knowing the people running the businesses, they turned what was going to be a depression that, again, would have stripped the Great Depression of its moniker into a time that was rather fucking prosperous.
Now, I've heard that story be told a different way, that Chase Morgan and the others engineered a miniature recession right there to get the Fed in place in order to basically remove a lot of their up-and-coming competition.
See, it wasn't... They didn't institute the Fed. What happened was the government, after this happened, looked at what they did, and the government said, well, if a bunch of businessmen can do this, if a bunch of industrialists can do this, surely we can hire the best and brightest, and we'll be able to do this. And not only will we be able to do it, but we'll be able to do it even better.
Sure.
There's one major problem with this.
It's a wonderful story, sir. Very, very wonderful fictional story. Continue.
Which part do you think is fictional?
Dude, all of it. I love how you portrayed the people who were going after the businesses as if they're doing it in some sort of, oh yeah, it's just a mechanical. We're just trying to optimize the profit margin. Yeah, okay, but is it beneficial? No, it's not. It's not beneficial to anybody. And that's where we ran into the problem.
Wait, hold on.
But
I think now you're going
bypass
into a
all of that
different
shit.
thing. Because
No. Continue with your what you were
what
saying.
you just said
I
is
really
very
did
different
not
than
want-
what I was saying.
I really didn't want to jump in, but it was just laughable. But continue, sir. Um, so how do they go about their continuation of prosperity?
The way that they did it was they consolidated companies that were going to fail into companies that weren't. They made sure that machinery that was still useful ended up with people that would use it. When the government tried to do this, the government has fucked it up every single time. This was something that was noticed, or rather, the original success was something that was noticed by the government, as I said, which is what inspired the Fed, as the Fed currently exists. And again, I'm not sure which part was me saying that they optimized so much as...
Well, okay, hold on. How long ago do you think the Fed started cooperating with this sort of monopolistic or gangster style operations?
The first time that the Fed, in its more modern form, tried to influence the market was around the time of the Great Depression.
Around 1870s, it started growing to fruition around the 1930s.
Which is the Great Depression. Yeah, it started
Yep.
in the 70s, which is after the incident that I was talking about. Because
Well, even before that, I mean,
the
it blew up.
incident that I was talking about was... Let me quickly look up when the original one was, because I think it was the mid... Let me just check it. Oh, go ahead. I'm looking this up. It's me typing. You can speak while I'm typing because it makes absolutely no sense for everyone to be silent.
Sorry, third and long.
Um. uh. mm,
Yes, I
Make
know.
sure.
We're horrible at idle conversation together, Adam.
You know what, Donkey? How is the weather out there in Kanadistan this
It's
time?
cold.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, it's we're getting some snow. At least they said we're supposed to get snow. Kind of hoping, but you never can be too sure. A lot of times out here in Chicagoland, you get
So
snow.
the modern Fed was really created the Federal Reserve Act, which was 1913. And
surprise, surprise. It's that president who did it.
The crash that I was referring to, or the potential for a crash, was the 1907.
Miniature recession, yep. 2 years of the economy humming and hawing.
Yep. And it was...
Now, here's something that would have fixed
Fed
that
Reserve
economy
Act
instead
of...
of
Like I said, it was the Fed Reserve Act that came into place that really made the Fed as we know it, which was the 1913 Fed Act, Federal Reserve Act.
$1913 is where it all started.
That's when the Federal Reserve as we know it was created.
Again, surprise, surprise, it was that president.
Because, yeah, it was the December 23rd, 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was started. And that was when the 7-member Federal Reserve Board, appointed by the president with the consent of the Senate, was to coordinate money supply policy with 12 banks designated as Federal Reserve banks. Each of the banks would be located in a different region of the country. The Federal Reserve banks were to be lenders of last resort for U.S. banks. The Federal Reserve banks could issue Federal Reserve notes, paper currency, redeemable in gold to make the money supply more elastic or expandable if needed.
Was
Those
that
were
the one that
main
was
components.
done around Christmas time?
Yeah, that was the one that was around Christmas time. That was the December 23rd, 1913 bill. Or rather, act. Whereas the one that I was referring to was the 1903. Let me quickly double check. Sorry, 1907. Panic, which was the one where there started to be a run on the banks, a bunch of industries started to collapse, and then through knowing the actual market, people were able to throw money in the right places at the right time and pull it out of a dive.
Yes, having basic economic sense.
Yeah, when you know the market, you know where to throw the money. Now, if you're talking about when did certain figures, like when did Morgan's father, I think it was Morgan's father, in 1871 become a major lender to the U.S. government, that was in the 1800s. Like I said, it was 1871 or something like that. And that was when he started loaning to the government. I'm trying to remember the exact origin of that, but his bank became the primary loan to the government.
It is certainly one way to fix a recession. I know another way. Be in a crucially important geopolitical position and have another country bail you out entirely.
Hey, that could work.
Yeah, it is. It'll also win a certain piece of shit his re-election this July.
And quickly double checking because I think there might have been another one. Yep, this was the other crash because I knew that there were 2 or 3 crashes that Morgan and a bunch of other industrialists ended up throwing cash at different industries at the right time in order to kind of pull up out of a dive from. And it was the 1893 panic, which was under Cleveland. And that one, Cleveland was really fucking pissed off at Morgan about, because Morgan did manage to maneuver himself into an interesting position where it was, you can either go after me for a trust, or you can let me do this, and the economy survives. And the government allowed him
trust
to...
bust. I don't care for the rest of the economy. A trust is more damaging than a minor recession any day of the week.
In large part, I would agree, yes. But yeah, that was a bit of a dirty move on their part, and that was something that did happen. But at the same time, it ended up being beneficial to a large degree. Because, yeah, it was once under Cleveland, and then it was under Roosevelt in 1907. And then it was the 1913 one that put, or act that put the Federal Reserve as we know it into place. And that's when the government went, well, if they could do it, then we can do it. And they've never successfully done it. Every time that they've tried, they've failed and fucked things up even more.
Mm-hmm. And for the third time, it's completely unsurprising that a president of that caliber would think of something that stupid.
And for those who don't know the president that he's referring to, Wilson.
It being in 1913, however, I'm pretty sure Democrat revisionists say Taft already had it made up.
Except Taft was against the formation.
Like I said, Democrat revisionists.
But yeah, it was the federal government decided that if they could do it, then the federal government sure as shit can, forgetting the most important part of they had to know the industries. And like I said, this wasn't something that was altruistic by any stretch of the imagination. They became fantastically wealthy from putting money into the proper place at the proper time. Which, I'm sorry, but if you're able to know where to put your money at the right time, and you're able to know where to put it in open and honest terms, then yeah, you should profit. Roosevelt had a ridiculous number of pets. It was glorious. Sorry, Cannibalistic Wizard says, I like the story of how Roosevelt got a pet badger.
Jesus Christ. Of course he'd have a pet badger.
Oh, Roosevelt, like I said, he had a ridiculous number of pets. Here, let me find all the pets that Roosevelt had.
You mean the ones he didn't shoot him out on his wall?
So, when it came to Teddy Roosevelt, he had a passion for big game hunting, but he also had an absolute passion for animals. So, when he had a chance of getting an animal, he would. But he also enjoyed hunting. Yeah, so let me see. Roosevelt pets. So, the Roosevelt family had a pet bear named Jonathan Edwards, a pet lizard named Bill, guinea pigs named Admiral Dewey, Dr. Johnson, Bishop Doane, Fighting Bob Evans, and Father O'Grady, Maud the pig, Josiah the badger, Ellie Yale the blue macaw, Badger Spreckle the hen, a one-legged rooster, a hyena, a barn owl, Peter the rabbit, and Algonquin the pony. Not the Algonquin pony, but Algonquin the pony. And that's one of the... Teddy Roosevelt is hands down my favorite fucking president from history. He's just absolutely ridiculous in the most glorious of fashion.
Yes. I just wish he wasn't followed by a streak of presidents that have been in a steady decline ever since. And I will say that openly.
Well, the main issue was two in particular.
Oh, yes. But first, you had a
Because-
fat ass who didn't understand his predecessor's strategy going forward properly.
Well, the
A
thing
person
was,
who got into
Taft-
to a fluke and is one of the ones you're referring to.
Taft never wanted to actually be president. And he was a okay president. He wasn't miserable. He wasn't fantastic. He was an okay president, but he was a fantastic Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, you got to give credit where credit's due. You know, Taft didn't really want that position, but he also failed at that position. So,
Like I said, he wasn't. I wouldn't
not
say that he was a
overall.
complete failure. I would say that he didn't live up to the hopes for him.
Yep.
And he was just an okay president. He wasn't miserable, but he just wasn't.
The biggest
fantastic.
issue,
wasn't a
and
Biden.
I consider this to be an issue with the party at the time, is he didn't meet with the very high standards or wishes of his predecessor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what led to his predecessor and his equally massive ego to cause, well, the worst president of all 45 to get into office.
He has some strong competition. Let's be honest. He's
You want?
he's
I will
one
agree.
of
There are
at the
some.
very least.
I will agree. Strong
There's some
competition,
argument-
but
There's a way of arguing for a handful of others as the worst president, but he's definitely one of the top 5 to 6 at the very least. And I would say that he is top 2 when you look at the length of his fuck-ups. Because the 2 that I would name as the ones that have the longest fuck-ups that we're still paying for to this day are Wilson and the lesser Roosevelt.
Yes, sir. You mean the guy who isn't considered a tyrant only because of the company of the time period?
Yep.
What are we not allowed to say his name or something? Or
It's just I prefer referring to him as the lesser Roosevelt rather than FDR.
well, you know, there's only Teddy.
Exactly. Teddy is the one and only true Roosevelt, in my opinion, because fucking hell, the dude was a goddamn legend.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, son of a bitch, he exercised himself out of asthma.
And to continue my diatribe about the century of horror presidents, you had to do nothing that died in a couple of months. Then you have Coolidge and Hoover, which again were do nothings, but at a time where being a do nothing was actually a good thing.
Well, Hoover gets a lot of shit, and there's certain things that he should get shit for. The ordering of Pershing.
What do you do with the backtrack?
The ordering of Pershing to clear out the Hoover town,
Oh, God.
where he sent the U.S. military to deal with a bunch of military vets that were poor due to the fucking economy. The way that that was done, just absolute shit.
Jeez.
But that's one of the biggest things that, yeah. Anyone knocking him for that, abso-fucking-lutely. Makes perfect sense. And it was a stain on Pershing. It was a stain on Hoover. But Well, he didn't do anything when the economy was going to shit. Yeah, he's the federal government. He shouldn't do anything. The best response that a government can have in that situation is the economy's not ours.
Yeah, but you still get blamed if it goes to shit.
Yeah. Which you should if it goes to shit because of your actions. If it just goes to shit because of natural market cycle, that's not on you.
Well, an investment bubble that large, I would put it on Coolidge or Hoover, not to directly act or say, hey, big bubble, chill, please, before it pops. Because even an idiot knew there was a huge bubble being formed.
But yeah, that, like I said, I don't really blame Hoover for the economy. I blame Hoover for other shit that he did.
Mm-hmm. The diatribe goes back into what we were talking about, and then you have, oh, good lord, I forgot about him.
Yeah, when you're
About
dealing
who?
Truman.
when you're dealing with the presidents that I hate the most are Wilson. This is in no particular order. These are just kind of my top most hated presidents. Wilson, FDR. Then I would put LBJ, Carter, and the current. Because Carter gets on my shit list due to his handling of 3 Mile Island. Do you know what Carter did during 3 Mile Island?
Fuck all.
No, that would have been better. So, Carter. Do you know what Carter did when he was in the Navy?
No, frankly, Carter's a forgettable person.
I know he's a forgettable person, but do you know what he did when he was in the Navy?
No. This is the first time of me hearing he was military before office.
Oh yeah, he was in the Navy. He was an extremely intelligent person. And when he was in the Navy, he was working on nuclear reactors. So when 3 Mile Island happened, Carter got a briefing of what happened at 3 Mile Island very fucking quickly. Do you know what Carter did once he read the briefing on what happened at 3 Mile Island?
I've already guessed fuck all, because that's what I expect Carter to do. Fuck all.
Nope, he did much worse. So Carter saw the briefing. Being someone who worked with nuclear reactors, he personally went, oh, this is absolutely nothing. And that's correct. It was absolutely nothing. Because the whole thing about 3 Mile Island, I'm not sure how much you guys know about it, is
A cooling issue that almost led to Chernobyl.
no. That is the myth about 3 Mile Island. What actually happened at 3 Mile Island was there was a issue with the primary system that was solved before anyone even noticed it. And when I say it was solved before anyone even noticed it, what I mean is that there was an indicator light that flips on when that issue happened. So the indicator light flipped on. No one was looking at where the indicator light was. The secondary system immediately solved the problem and continued operation. It was a fart of radiation out of the top of the stack that equates to 3 Atlantic flights. So a flight from New York to London to New York to London. That's the amount of radiation that was released from the top of the stack. But again, this was a problem that was solved before anyone even noticed that it was a problem. Then someone noticed that the indicator light was on, and they didn't immediately realize that the problem had been resolved already. So they go, oh shit, this indicator light's on. So they start going through all the procedures in order to make sure that it isn't a problem. And they go through all the procedures to make sure that it isn't a problem. But they also do what they should do, which is they reported it as this indicator light went on. I do not know when it went on because I was distracted at the time. I just know that I noticed it at this time. And then they went through and they realized, oh, yeah, the indicator light went on at this time. The redundant system activated at this time. And this was the result. That was all in the first report that Carter got. The reason why he went, oh yeah, this is nothing. Because all it said was, holy shit, our reactor is so fucking safe that even if everything goes wrong on the staffing level, you have inattentive staff that then ends up overreacting, nothing fucking happens. And when we do have inattentive staff, that inattentive staff actually correctly says, my fault, guys. I wasn't paying attention. So this is good on all fronts. He got that report. He personally dismissed it. Then he realized people were panicking. So what did Jimmy Carter decide to do? Did Jimmy Carter come out because Jimmy Carter was popular? Because he was a very pleasant man. Did Jimmy Carter come out and go, I understand that people in America are worried about this, but this is absolutely nothing to worry about. Here's the complete explanation of why this is nothing to worry about. I worked with nuclear reactors. I know this system that they're referring to. I know how this happened. And this
the media still would have tried him for it.
They might not have, but the answer to what did Jimmy Carter do was he sure as fuck didn't do that. What Jimmy Carter came out and said was, I understand that a lot of people are scared, and they should be. Hold on a moment. Why is the president telling me that I should be scared of this minor reactor issue? Is this minor reactor issue actually something really fucking serious? Oh my god, it was almost Chernobyl. It almost killed an entire section of the United States by just leaking radiation all over the fucking place. We would have had 3 armed mutants running around by the amount of radiation that was leaking out of this fucking... No. It was a single fart, 3 Atlantic flights worth of radiation. It was nothing. But he fed into the fear. And he fed into the fear when he knew that there was absolutely fuck all to be afraid of. God damn it, donkey, stop pouring peanuts down a slide.
How did you accurately guess what I was eating?
Because we heard every fucking slide of it.
I'll put the peanuts away.
Good. But yeah, that's the reason why Carter's on my shit list, because Carter could have come out, could have explained what was going on. And he was liked enough because he was a pleasant enough man. And he was knowledgeable enough in this instance that he probably could have done a fuck ton of good by coming out and saying, look, this is why this isn't anything to worry about. This is a complete explanation. I'm being completely forthright with you. Donkey?
What?
Are you having a full fucking picnic over there?
What did you think I just had?
Sounded like
know.
you just opened a bottle, set the cap immediately onto the tip of your microphone.
I mean, is it tasty or?
And I correctly identified that you were eating peanuts. So I'm guessing you were having peanuts, and is that a soda that I heard? I didn't hear the psst, so it might have just been a bottle of water.
White tea, actually.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the reason why he's on my shit list, because he had the ability to calm things down, to reassure America.
But instead, he's become one of the two major reasons people are so afraid of nuclear power right now.
Yep. And this is the thing that pisses me off, because there's always 3 examples that everyone points to of, see, nuclear power, it's deadly, it's dangerous, it's terrifying. Look at Chernobyl, look at 3 Mile Island, look at Fukushima. Okay, let's look at those.
I can go through all 3 of those myself.
Yeah.
Even the horrible myth of 3 Mile Island, okay. Minor coolant issue. It was solved pretty quickly. Great. Chernobyl, old technology, shit staff.
Yeah, old technology dealing with Soviet accountability. And the normal thing that comes up with Soviet accountability is everyone tries to hide that something's gone wrong. And then when it finally reaches the government tries to hide that anything went wrong. So you have everyone at every level dutifully trying to ignore the fact that this reactor is goddamn melting down. And just spewing radiation. So, yeah, the fact that Chernobyl even worked was amazing. But when it comes
the third
down
one
to it,
took
it
a
was Soviet.
record-breaking earthquake and a tsunami at the same time. A literal act of God.
Yeah, it took an earthquake, then a tsunami, and do you remember how much of the reactor was damaged?
Just one of the reactors was cracked open a little bit and leaked out a bit.
Yep, it was one reactor at the entire fucking power station was cracked, and it started to leak.
And to this day, there is no confirmed death relating to that break.
The closest that you have is you have a couple people that were in the cleanup that had some issues.
Couple cancers here and there.
Yeah, but
which
also,
is a horrible thing, sure, but...
And the thing is, Japan did something that was really fucking interesting way of handling it. Because do you remember who volunteered for cleanup duty?
No, I don't know the basics.
A bunch of fucking ancient Japanese people. A bunch of old people. When this reactor had an issue, you're requesting cleanup crew. Fuck it, we're going to die anyways. We'll volunteer. It was a bunch of old people that volunteered for cleanup duty so that they could prevent young people from having to get near radiation.
Sacrificing themselves for the young.
And not even that much of a sacrifice, because you get enough radiation from the cleanup that you're going to get cancer and die in 30 years? You're 80. Are you really expecting to make it to 110?
It is Japan.
That
That is literally my only response to that.
110 is still a bit of a stretch.
Haven't all people that have reached 110 or higher been of Japanese descent?
A lion's share have been Japanese. There have been a handful of others.
I'm not gonna lie, the idea of, like, if it was an RTS, that you could build a structure where it produced old ladies that would go and do the mining work, and you get an extra bonus because they're older.
You must build additional pylons.
Yep. You must build additional nanas.
But yeah, and if I remember correctly, there was a handful of the people that were volunteering for this were also people that survived the bombing runs, if you know what I mean.
Wait, for
Fun runs or the fiery runs?
The two big boys.
Oh, the fun ones. The fun ones.
Rather one fat man and one little boy.
I was gonna say nobody wants the fiery ones.
But yeah, if I remember correctly, there were a handful of them that went, yeah, I've already been nuked once. Fuck it.
Wait, wasn't there a guy
There was one person that got nuked twice, yes.
Yeah,
he was in the first city when the bomb dropped on it.
Doing some form of business, and then he returned home just the day before.
It wasn't that he was returning home. If I remember the story correctly, he was there, he got nuked, he went, fuck this, I'm going someplace safe. So he went to the other city, and it got fucking nuked the moment that he got there.
Yeah. It reminds me of a Civil War story. I forget the guy's name, but had cannonballs fly through his home at First Bull Run and actually hosted the surrender of the Army of Northern Virginia.
Oh yeah, I can't remember his name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there is a guy who was like that.
But yeah, it is just absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, the problem is that second and third world countries have a shit ton of mismanagement. They have shoddy materials, and they have a bunch of different issues, because there have been issues with various sorts of reactors. There have been issues with various sorts of MRI machines and other shit in those areas. Also, one of the things that every time that I think about the people going, well, look at Fukushima. Have you guys ever seen what happens when a coal fire plant gets hit by a tsunami?
Black sludge everywhere for weeks.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the steam explosions that can happen.
Oh my.
Because what happens is you have something that is extremely hot. It's designed to be extremely fucking hot. And then you have it suddenly rapidly cooled.
Boom!
As the substance, the water, that is rapidly cooling it is rapidly heated. And you get a steam explosion. This has happened a shit ton of times to different sorts of more traditional reactors, where the steam, the boiler element, will get hit by water suddenly and it'll just flash steam. causing
Yeah,
a ridiculous amount of damage.
And even a minor steam explosion, though it's not destroy houses and whatnot, I feel sorry for anyone caught in the blast of a minor steam explosion.
Yeah. And I don't know why, but the minor steam explosion point just reminded me of taking it back to... Actually, no, that wasn't in... It wasn't in Chicago. It was in Boston that it happened. The Boston molasses wave. You guys know about that?
Oh, I know about it.
I don't think I've ever heard about it.
So, in Boston, in the... Was it... Let me quickly double check. I want to say it was the late 1800s. Boston molasses disaster. So, the Great Molasses Flood. Oh, it was 1919 that this happened. So, gather round, boys and girls. I'll tell you the story of the Great Molasses Flood of 1919. So, in 1919, let me quickly check the date. It was in January 15th of 1919. There was this absolutely enormous fucking vessel for molasses that was made by... It was... What company was it again?
And I remember it was a ship maker that actually made the...
It was
container.
a ship maker who made the container. I'm trying to remember the company name. Because it was this one company that was getting molasses, processing molasses, and then sending it out, as well as selling just straight molasses. I think it was a rum distillery that then became a denatured alcohol producer, as well as they just sold molasses for bakers and shit like that. But can't remember the company's name. They made this absolutely enormous reservoir for the molasses that they were getting in, because I'd get new shipments every morning. And they had the structure made by a shipbuilder. I believe you are right when you said that. Rather than someone who actually specialized in reservoir construction.
It's not exactly a bad guess to think that a ship maker can make a watertight container.
Well, this was still at a time when watertight ships, not really a thing. You ended up with mostly watertight ships.
You said 1919, so I'm going to call BS unless we're talking it was built decades earlier.
No, 1919, you're still ending up with mostly watertight ships.
Then how was a ship built in 1914 able to sit in a dock for 30 years, wasting away, being corroded, and still was able, though not under its own power, just this year, get into dry dock?
Because mostly watertight allows for a couple inches, and depending on the size of the ship, or a couple inches in a standard size ship, depending on the size, that can be less than that couple inches.
Bear in mind,
it takes a fuck ton of water to actually sink a ship.
bear in mind, the era in which we are talking about, standard size ship, is an actual term. It's not a turn of phrase. It's an actual term.
Yep.
I say that because I'm referring to a standard ship.
Yeah, which, like I said, it could get like a couple inches a year. But considering that ships before that, the Mary Celeste had 3 feet of water in its bilge, and it was still seaworthy when it was found. So a couple inches, it's mostly watertight, but not entirely watertight. And when you're dealing with a vessel that is, what was it, 8? Quickly double check the full capacity, because I want to say it was something obscene, like 8 million gallons was the full tank, was the full reservoir. When you're dealing with an 8 million gallon reservoir,
You need a little bit more than a shipbuilder's expertise.
yeah, you need a fuck ton more than a shipbuilder. So they made, oh, sorry, this one, it wasn't the, oh, I thought I saw somewhere it said 8 million. This was a 2.5 million. So my mistake. But it was 2.5 million gallon reservoir that stood 50 feet tall and was 90 feet in diameter. Its steel walls ranged from just over half an inch to just over a quarter of an inch thick. Which, way too fucking thin to support that amount of
Exactly why I went,
Yeah. Also, rather than it being welded, it was a riveted design.
No. You idiot builders.
So it got even worse because, like I said, this happened in January 15th, or on January 15th of 1919, which, January, it had a unseasonably cold bit of time right before this, and molasses, when it first comes in and you're trying to move it from its shipping container to a reservoir, you have to heat it. So you heat up the molasses in order to make it flow more readily, because cold molasses doesn't fucking flow. You heat it up a fair bit, it can suddenly move. So molasses shipments are coming in. They're trying to fill up the reservoir to just about capacity, and they're just having hot molasses pour into this bitterly cold reservoir. Do you guys know what happens when you thermally shock metal?
If it's anything similar to what happens when you thermally shock a ceramic, yes.
Or stone? It just takes a bit more of extreme of a shift in order to get a proper thermal shock. But
I speak because I've seen a little ceramic plate hit lukewarm water after being used as by the line cooks.
Yep.
And my station was out of commission for an hour.
So
it shattered on impact.
Yeah, it does horrendous things to structural integrity. So you have cold reservoir with too thin of metal suddenly get hit by very hot molasses, and it's being filled. It's able to hold for a while, but very quickly the seams of the containment, which again, this was a riveted design rather than a welded design, start weeping molasses. No one calls a pause in the filling. They continue filling, and those bits of weeping seam, of weeping rivets, start going from weeping to pouring. And the entire thing is groaning.
Decide to stop pouring.
They continue filling.
Good Lord.
Eventually it reaches the point where the seams of the reservoir burst. And they send, I think at the start they said 8-foot tall waves of molasses
Hot molasses.
through the streets of Boston.
Hot stickies everywhere.
And that wave just runs through Boston, hitting everyone that's nearby, pushing cars, pushing the debris of the containment reservoir, everything that it can. It crushes people as it goes. And worse, because it's molasses, even if you survive the initial impact, imagine trying to swim your way up. And oh yeah, like I said, this was heated molasses. So it kind of burns when it fucking hits you as well.
Poor people.
So a shit ton of people were
Horribly burned and then buried beneath what is effectively a tar.
Yep. A shit ton of people were horrendously injured by getting hit by a wave of molasses. Other people were just killed. Some people were able to survive being hit without too much damage, but then were drowned in molasses since they couldn't get through it, because molasses is damn near a non-Newtonian fluid. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention that the initial wave was traveling through the city streets at about 35 miles an hour.
So barely even an option to run from it either.
Yep. So as the molasses starts cooling, of course it starts slowing down. But cooling molasses also makes it much more difficult to get out if you happen to be stuck, because it increases how sticky and viscous the substance is. Which meant that at a certain point, anyone that was trapped in it, they were just fucked. People tried to dig people out. People tried to save other people's lives. This resulted in some people getting stuck in it. There were several people that died just from exhaustion of trying to help others, because every time that they moved to help someone, they had to pull against the sticky molasses. And it reached the point where they were finally able to clean up the process by just pumping water into the area. They would warm up water, pump it through the city streets, trying to wash away the molasses. And eventually they did, for the most part. But the entire area continued to smell like molasses for a long fucking time. And then there's some claims that even for years and years, if not decades or a century later, if it got hot enough in those in the section of the city that was affected by this, you can still smell the molasses. Just due to how much fucking molasses went through that area. It was ridiculous. But that's a great
but fortunately, that's the greatest disaster Boston has dealt with recently. Unlike Cleveland, who regularly sets their own river on fire.
True. But it is nearing the end of the show. Not exactly at it, but I did say that there were some things that made me name it one poured for the Forerunners. And that is one of the things that I've recently found is part of the reason. Another is, of course, you guys have all heard about the Hogwarts Legacy incident, and that Pikami, one of the early VTubers, is graduating at the end of the month. There's some claims that this was planned out well ahead of this, but this situation just didn't make it better. And even if it was planned out well ahead, it kind of makes it sadder, because if she was planning on graduating at the end of the month anyways, she was on hiatus all last month because of the backlash, so she lost a month of her time that she was going to have streaming before her graduation. So it makes it even more fucked up if it was planned out ahead of time, because it just stole a month. But then there's also the more amusing thing that I've been doing, and the not quite as depressing aspect that made me name it One Poured for the Forerunners. And that is, there's a shit ton of old World War II propaganda and education films that you can now find on YouTube. And I've fallen down a complete fucking rabbit hole. Just watching these old military films for like, here's how you bust a German tank. As well as one of the ones that I watched today was Shoot to Kill. And it's just, here's all the major weapons that you'll be using while fighting the Jerrys. And here's how you make sure that every time that you pull the trigger, someone fucking dies. And they're fucking glorious. If you haven't watched any of those, and you're at all interested in history, I recommend looking up those old school propaganda and war education films that were put out. They are glorious.
I'll have to give him a look-see.
Oh yeah, you'll probably find them even more enjoyable than the standard viewer, Adam, because I know that you enjoy history, and they're absolutely beautiful historical records. Also, you enjoy animation, and the animated ones, oh good god, the animated ones, they're fucking amazing. Like, there's one that I just found. I had no knowledge of this before I found it today, and I just watched all of the Private Snafu cartoons. And Private Snafu is voiced by, and rather, not just voiced by, but also there was a cameo by Bugs Bunny.
Wait, what?
Chuck Jones?
Yeah, he's voiced by Jones, and there was a cameo by Bugs Bunny. So he voiced two people in the same cartoon.
Whoa.
With the same goddamn voice. It was funny. But it's a soldier who just constantly fucks up everything. And it's meant to be this don't be Private Snafu. And the thing that I love about it particularly is the pilot of the Private Snafu. Because it was Private Snafu. Situation normal.
All fucked up.
Please
All
stay here.
fouled up. And there was that pause that just made it. Yep, this is the PC version. That voice over guy wanted to say what it actually is. And he knows everyone knows what it actually is. But he gave just that perfect comedic pause.
Well, he did that because of the Hollywood Mafia.
Yeah. And it was just perfectly done so that it hit right. The entire thing is rather amusing, even though, like I said, it's just old school war propaganda cartoon. The jokes land in it nicely. It's fantastic. I recommend looking up old school World War II propaganda and World War II military education of this is how you kill someone. One of the other ones that I watched recently was knife and club fighting for the Marines. Which
A useful skill for Marines.
Oh yeah, a useful skill, and also good God, the number of times that a combo began, ended with, or began and ended with, and hit him in the nuts.
Yeah.
There was the club fighting. One part, I will walk you through the combination that they instructed you to do, because it was talking about all the different ways that you could beat someone down with a club in combat. So it began with parry your opponent's attack, club them in the nuts, club them in the wrist to break their wrist, then their elbow, then the side of the neck, then their nuts, then their head, then their nose, then their teeth, just knock out their teeth, and for good measure, give them another crack in the balls.
As an enjoyer of trench melee warfare, yes, you do not play clean, and you keep beating until they stop moving.
Oh yeah, but it became almost a joke the number of times that it was a combo where it was, you do this, give him a crack in the nuts, you do this, you do that, give him a crack in the balls, and I'm just sitting there going, oh, ooh, oh, I think he's dead. Good,
Give him another couple to make sure he's not faking it.
Like I said, it seemed like every move when it came to the club either began or ended with or had it mixed in the middle or all of the above, crack in the nuts. But yeah, it is about that time. Okay.
Nope. Game.
Oh, okay. So it is about that time, and it sounds like everyone's kind of winding down. So shall we go around the horn for parting words?
Sure.
So do you want to go first, Adam, or shall I direct it to Donkey so that we can distract him from his game and hopefully make him lose a round again?
Funny, I'm 6-0 on the season.
Yeah, go with Donkey.
So it's not even hard to make you lose. Go ahead, Donkey.
I said 6-0, not 0-6.
Go ahead.
You didn't answer the question, though.
But to actually get my parting thoughts, whoever let Russ cook, please let him continue to cook. It's funny.
Wow, he managed to squeeze that one out, didn't he?
That is a fitting facsimile to what Donkey normally does. It's hard to call it communication. It is more of just squeezing one out and then flushing the greasy shit down the bowl. So, Adam, how about you?
Hold on. There you go, Donkey.
Fuck the Broncos.
Excellent.
I believe I just killed him by saying that he just produces verbal excrement. So, Adam, go ahead.
Well, it was a fun conversation we had this evening.
Yep.
Shit, I hope we don't get a lot of snow tomorrow, especially for us in the Midwest.
Oh, snow's bound for you guys.
So they say. We don't know yet, but
it's been warm the past couple days. I'm dreading ice up where I am.
Yeah.
But
yeah, other than that, yeah, it's been fun hanging out, and as always, love you all and God bless. Boop.
Copy that. And I'll leave off with my standard of, if you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And with that, have a good night all. The zoo is closed.
Night.
Good night, everyone.